There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in.
Hello, my beautiful people. I am excited to introduce you to Ashley Romney. And if you guys don't know who that is, I'm going to tell you exactly who it is. Because every time I hear the name Ashley Romney, I think empowerment. When I first came across Ashley through social media, maybe Lady Bosses, maybe somewhere else, I was thinking, I need this girl and everybody needs this girl because Ashley is a teen empowerment coach for girls. And you guys already know I have 4 daughters and I need all the help I can get. So Ashley has been somebody I've always had on my radar. And luckily we found a way to collaborate and work together. So Ashley, I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that my girls have you as a mentor. And I'm so glad that we get to introduce my listeners to what you do. So before we start off, I guess tell me what you're excited about right now. Are you nervous? Excited?
Super excited to be here. Thank you so much for such a kind intro. So excited to be able to share this message, to be able to empower other teen girls in YSA.
Yeah. Okay. You have been doing this for over 16 years. You guys can't see this, but Ashley looks like she's 16. She's definitely on the young side. So it's always fun to realize that I became, in quotes, a life coach when I was really young too. And I always worried that people would see me as like, oh, you don't have enough life under your belt. But Ashley, tell me how you got your start. And I hope that our listeners can feel how confident you are, because that's one of the things that I think is so awesome about you is like, you're very firm in your message and what you do. So yeah, how did you get your start with this title and career as an empowerment coach for girls?
Yeah. So I started working with youth when I was right out of high school, really, really involved in my community in Murray City. And I was actually an advisor for the Murray City government and Chamber of Commerce. And it was so much fun. I absolutely loved working with these teens. I loved empowering them. They were so motivated. And just being able to be a role model and teach them leadership skills really, really helps me to see that I want to be working with teens long term.
I really like that. I got married at 18 and I was called into the young women organization at church. And I thought it was really silly that I was like, I hope nobody finds out how young I am, because I literally just got out of young women's. But I think one thing that you and I have in common is that drive and that desire to be a role model, because there's an extra layer of maturity and accountability that comes with stepping into that role. What would you say has been something that's challenged that in you? Or has it always been really easy for you to be an example? Because that's something I struggled with.
I know that we're both projectors. So as a projector, we are both very strong leaders. However, projectors can also be very conditioned. If people aren't listening to them or hearing their voice, suddenly they shut down. And that was actually my story. I feel like this leader in me has been in me like whole life, but I started to be like rejected and people weren't listening to my voice and they weren't ready to hear what I had to say. I started to shut down and minimize that again and again. And yeah, it's been so fun being able to reclaim power in my own life, to be able to be that leader that I know is within me and that I can help others raise up to be the leader that's in them.
I love that. Would you say that every girl you work with also experiences that? Or do you have some girls who feel like they're being heard, but they want more out of their experience?
Yeah, such an interesting question. I've seen every girl shut down in some way, shape, or form. Every girl wants to be heard and adored for who she is, right? And some come across more confident than others. But yeah, there's definitely layers of healing that can be done to really help them to shine and be more authentically them. It seems to be like a coping mechanism that some teen girls will stray a little bit from who they really are. and just to fit in, and so they start having this fake confidence where there's someone that they're really, truly not authentically in their soul, but that's how they're getting the attention. So they just keep running with that.
I like what you said, heard, because I feel like that's a standard truth. Everybody wants to be heard, but what you said was heard and adored for who they are. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do a lot better with that, because I feel like I do hear my girls and I give them the time. One thing that has helped me as a parent is making eye contact, of course, but I also like to hold my girls' hands when we talk. And one of my daughters is like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, I'm sending you good energy. Like, this is what we're doing. So I feel like I hear them often, but adored, that just like hits something new in me where I'm like, don't we all want to be adored? Not just existing in somebody's space, but we want to be valued for exactly who we are. So I guess for me and my listeners, what's a piece of advice you can give for us to be able to show up in a way where not just hear people, but like adore them? And maybe it's not just our daughters, but kids in general. What's something we can do to really adore our children in a better way?
I love that you incorporate personal touch when you're having conversations with them. I think that's huge. One of the hardest struggles that I think we as humans have is to get out of our own mind, making it all about us. And I think if we were to give that adoration out more, we'll be able to receive it more. Just making space. Like, the more that you give and release something, the more that you have space to be able to receive it. And so if we're so focused on building up other people, it naturally will come back to us. And one of the best ways I think that we can adore someone is by really getting to know them, like seeking to understand rather than seeking to be understood first, right? So really getting to know, what is it about them that, like, what are their gifts? What are their talents? What are their interests? And really, really, really spending more time and focus on that specifically.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
Yeah, I love that. Oftentimes I find myself, just observing a family member, and sometimes I'll say out loud, where did you come from? Because it's like this new understanding of like this thing that's right in front of me, they've adapted or become this thing that I'm unfamiliar with, but it's a very beautiful thing to observe. So I think for me personally, if I can turn that into not just observing, but let me cultivate that, I really like that. Another thing that you do as a coach and a mentor to young girls is to help them be proactive and take back their power. How would you say that relates to accountability in general?
Yeah, I think so often it's easy to blame our circumstances and our emotions and our happiness on outside circumstances. And I really find it just so empowering when I look within, and I teach my teen clients to do this too, where you can see, okay, what do I have power over in this moment? Where is my power? And I've broken it down into 8 pillars. So that's thoughts, agency, faith, like being able to create miracles with our faith and belief, our body. So like taking care of like self-care and our physical health, self-worth, like really owning and knowing who we are and not having to be better than or less than another person, but that equal value, emotions, love, and spirituality. Spirituality is huge for what I do, and that can look different for different people. But yeah, really owning those 8 pillars is just so empowering and healing.
Yeah, I love that. With those 8 pillars, because that's kind of a lot. I like that personally. I'm like, tell me all the things and I will get 100% in all of them eventually. When you work with a girl, how do you know where to start?
Yeah, And that's why I love working one-on-one with her, is just seeing what's showing up in her life and really listening to her. And oftentimes she doesn't even know what she needs until we really get to the root of whatever struggle is coming up in her life in that moment. And then being able to just, for me, it's intuitively knowing where to take it to the next level. All 8 of these pillars really, really can help any girl. But I think it's so important to really just give them the tools that will help them in that moment. For example, I'm working with a girl currently who is struggling with schoolwork and struggling with just not wanting to do any schoolwork at all. And as I help her see that she truly has a choice in this and that she can see, like, if you don't do your schoolwork, that's totally fine. Like, if you don't graduate, that's 100% fine. But here's the consequence. Here's the price that you will be paying for having that. And that right there empowers the girl to choose into what she truly wants. And she gets to be really clear on, okay, this is what I want. This is what I don't want.
Yeah. I think it's always really interesting when people recognize what they're running from and running to. And in all of my years of coaching accountability, sometimes people are very motivated to go and chase something, and then other people are really motivated to just get out of pain. Like, that really is the only thing that gets them to take action, is because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So in your practice, what's the best way to persuade a teen to do what you want them to do? Because even in your example of doing schoolwork, because sometimes there's like the parents, right? I know that when I talk to some of my kids and I'm like, you got to do this. For example, one of my kids is like, well, I don't have any friends here. And I'm like, you can go and make friends. She's like, you can get in your car and you can go do something fun, but I can't just go drive away and go make friends. So sometimes I'm like, how do I give them their control when they're still the kid and they're not quite an adult yet? So how do you find that balance, I guess?
Yeah, that's a tricky, hard one. And I think that's honestly tightrope to be walking, because if we're constantly like barking on our children of like, do this, this is the way it should be, it creates this level of shame where they then spiral and don't want it more and more. But if we keep giving them choice after choice and truly helping them see that they have so much power in their lives, I think that's when they become more anchored. So giving her options, she gave you the example of, well, you have a car, giving her options back of letting her see where she does have that power, I think is huge.
Yeah, I think that's good. And continuing to give options too, because I think that's what we all want, right? We all want the ability to see the light or see what's capable for us. And I think as a parent, we can lead the way. And even me as an accountability coach, I think that years ago, I came home from a class that I taught and I told my husband, I said, this is really awesome because nobody's going to call me wrong if I tell them to tune in. And that they already have the answers to make a choice based on what they can do, I think really gives them a lot of empowerment. So as you're working with girls, what would you say your favorite part is? One of your clients sees the aha moment, or she sees a lot more success that she didn't have in the past. What's your favorite part about that?
Yeah, I love when she's truly implementing, when she comes back the next time, the next week, and I can truly see the strides that she's made because she's implemented what she's done. And I have some more proactive girls than others. And just being able to love them in the space that they're in is truly so healing for that girl. When a girl is truly just validated and loved right where she is for who she is, it ignites something in her that changes. And I grew up in a generation, we both did, where I don't know if you saw this as much, but in my childhood, it was loads of shame, loads of, you should be doing better. You didn't do enough. You didn't try hard enough. And that love, that validation was truly a huge missing aspect. And it truly would have been, I think it would have launched me further had I had more love. So I love being able to give that. And I see strides, huge strides happen when I give that for the girl.
Hmm. What do you do when a girl shows up to a call and she doesn't want to do anything? Like she almost feels like she's forced to be there. Does that ever happen? Or are you good in your vetting process that you're like, I'm not going to force anybody? Yeah, because I'm sure you have parents who are like, my daughter needs help. This is the solution. Like, is it similar to, do you encounter that at all? Or you're like, no, Marcy, that's not a thing.
I definitely did in the start of my business, like tons. And yeah, I've definitely learned, okay, consultation first. And I need the girl, I need her heart in it. As much as I want to help heal every single girl on the planet, healing doesn't happen when you're not choosing it. And so that is vital for my consultation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For business owners who are not there yet, let that be a word from the wise, because I know I've been there where I've worked with people who they say they want accountability and then they really don't. So it's just interesting because dealing with girls, you're dealing with, undeveloped brains. So they're very moldable. You have to be really careful with how you approach things. So I wish I had a mentor growing up. And I feel like I found them throughout the different activities that I was going in, because I think we can always go back and pinpoint the different people in our lives who did hear us and who did adore us for how we showed up. And I think we need more of that in our life. So when it comes to accountability, how have you noticed your own abilities improve as you coached?
I love that question. You know what's crazy is oftentimes I get clients that are mirrors. And so while I am teaching them concepts and these pillars, they up level me to a whole new level. So like one girl in particular, every time she comes, whatever she's struggling with, it's like a mirror of what I get to be up leveling in my own life week after week. It never fails. And her things are always different. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm learning that on a whole new level right now too. So it's amazing. It's amazing when I'm willing to be vulnerable with what I have experienced with these girls, to be truly relatable and to help them see that they're not alone is just huge. And I believe progression is kind of like a spiral staircase. So while we think we've mastered it, you come around again and again and again and again.
Yeah, that's for sure. Where do you go? What's your own personal process for improving? Do you have different methods that you use when you're struggling with something or need help? Because I know you and I have worked together a little bit regarding business, but what else is in your tool belt when you are up leveling?
Yeah. So I actually have a team of mentors that I personally work with as well. And then basically this course that I've put together of these 8 pillars are actually the tools in my tool belt that I have used again and again. And that's why I decided to compile them all together to be able to help these teens have these tools, is because they've worked so deeply in my life.
Perfect. I love that. I love that answer. Not just because that's one of your commitment items that we're working on, but it's the very best way to attract the kind of people you want to work with is practicing what you preach. So I love that. That was actually like stellar answer, because really, I think anybody as a business owner, a parent, or somebody who wants to improve, it's like, what are the expectations in place? How do they need to be adjusted? And then how are you showing up? How are you falling back to the basics of the same thing? Because I think a lot of times, and you probably see this in coaching too, is like there's basic things that just have to be repeated over and over and over again for us to be successful. Like checking in or praying or asking for help or recognizing your shortcomings or mistakes and choosing to do something about it. So yeah, I love that. So your course, I can't wait for it to come out. But where can people find you? And tell the listeners a little bit more about who is a perfect fit for you to mentor.
Yeah. So you can find me at thepowerofonegirl.org. And I am a faith-based mentor. So I work with girls anywhere from ages 14 to 25. But a lot of what I incorporate is faith-based. And so if that fits you, I would love to work with you.
Perfect. Very good distinction. I was having a conversation with my daughter about one of her friends who has all these very strong opinions, but they're kind of applied in the wrong environment to the wrong people. And we were talking about the importance of showing up in a place where you can get support and you can talk about those things. And if it's brought to the wrong environment, it's actually not that helpful. So I think having a very important distinction of like, what are you looking for? What kind of route are you looking to go down? Totally makes a difference in how people show up. So I love that you are very clear in what you do with that too. So before we end, is there one big message that you're like, the entire world needs to know this thing? And if they knew it, we'd all be better off.
I love that question. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm just going to bring it back that it is self-worth. Like a lot of times I see girls so afraid of being confident, having that self-esteem, and they're misunderstanding what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is truly knowing that you are not greater than or less than any other human being. No matter what other people's actions or thoughts or beliefs or anything is, we are 100% equal. And when we start showing up and treating ourselves and other people that way, loving others and ourselves exactly equivalently, I believe just the world will start healing.
I love that. Love that big time. It's not just something I'm working on, but I think that if we can remember that about other people, it makes a difference. Because, some of us, it's easier to start on ourselves and apply it to other people. And then some of us are the opposite, where it's like, I could treat my friend like that for sure. It just is going to take some time for me to do it on my own. But
Right.
I love that. So with your message, you have your website, powerofonegirl.org. And are you on social media where we can go and just get reminders of all these good things that
absolutely.
Our lives? Yeah. Where else can people find you or connect with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Ashley Romney. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok under The Power of One Girl. And yeah, I would love to see you over there.
Perfect. And I'm just going to tell everybody your course is going to come out soon. And soon is relative. One of my daughters is always like, soon doesn't mean anything. Soon, it doesn't mean if it's now or in a week. And I said, I know, that's the power, the beauty of using the word soon. So Ashley's course is going to come out soon and it's going to be amazing. So I'm excited for it to come out and for everything that you're teaching too, not just for girls, but adults too. These are all lessons we're still trying to master. And the sooner we can adopt them and try, the better. So thank you for all you do. Any last words before we end?
No, just thank you so much for allowing me to be a guest and for the incredible work that you do raising 4 girls. That is such just a vital thing that is needed in this world, is good mamas raising good, empowered girls. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I try. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think raising daughters and, putting ourselves in check, being accountable is one of the best things we can do for those around us. So listeners, I hope that you have been inspired to take action today, whether it is to treat your child a little bit better or to not just see them, but adore them, or even to look in the mirror and give yourself that royal treatment too. Standard treatment, not even royal treatment, standard treatment to hear yourself, adore yourself, and know that your self-worth is always there, no matter what good or bad things are coming your way. So I hope you all enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.